What is it, my friend? Welcome to episode number 105 of the Anthony John Amick podcast. We're talking about in this episode like a return back to the basics. This is more of like a call to arms, maybe a little bit, and I'll talk about why. So if you're at a place in life where life just seems to be going really fast and you're like trying to stay like up to speed the best you can, and you're wanting to learn how to maintain certainty in the uncertainty, how to maintain your center in the chaos. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Anthony John Amick podcast, the one and only podcast designed to help you become unstoppable in life and business. My name is Anthony John Amick. My friends call me AJ, and my goal with this podcast is to help you remember who you truly are so you can maintain your center in the chaos, embody your potential, and unlock freedom in your life and business. That being said, let's get into today's show.
All right, welcome back. I have a candle burning. I think this is like some type of timberwood patchouli here in my office. So if you hear some fire crackling in the background, that's what it is, because it's sitting here on my desk and smells really good. So this episode, before we hop into it, before we get into the call to arms, I want to let you know about Shift 101. It is a free community full of entrepreneurs who are committed to really like embodying higher levels of potential and really stepping fully into the game of business and unlocking like that next level of freedom. And so if you want access to that community, it's 100% free. Simply go to ajamix.com/community. And all you gotta do is hit that little request to join the community button, and boom, you will be there. So again, ajamix.com/community if you're not part of that community. So let's talk about like a return to the basics. So the past couple of weeks, man, for me they've been intense. They've been intense. And I believe that the world's going to become, a little spicy. It's going to become more intense as the world continues to go on over the next couple of years. And so I found myself like just in this chaos, like the world's speeding up. I'm at a place where I don't watch any media because it seems like there's this facts on both sides of it, and it's noisy and it's chaos, and I don't fully trust a lot of that. And I talked about this, I think, in one of my last episodes. And anyway, so here's my whole point. The world's speeding up. The world's going to become more chaotic. And so it's like, as entrepreneurs, as people who are committed to leading our family, like, what do we do? How do we pivot? How do we start to see? Because at the end of the day, it's like if we start looking out there for answers, we become more convoluted. The inner pressure builds and builds and builds and builds. Well, this week, after I had hit a kind of a stalled out tipping point for the past couple of weeks, like really searching for answers, lots of breath work, lots of meditation, still lots of doing, working on the new book, Unstoppable Beacon, producing this podcast, coaching our clients, like there's lots of doing going on as well. I realized like it's time to return to the basics. You see, like, in order to go from like phase 3 of life, where it's like life happens by me, and if you listen to this podcast, you're probably in the third stage of life. There's 4 stages. Life happens as me. We come into this world as a child. Boom. We're pure consciousness. We move into phase 2 when our brain starts to develop, our ego starts to develop, our thinking capacity starts to develop. We move into phase 2 of life, which is life happens to me. And sadly, the vast majority, around 78%, 80% of humanity never leave phase 2 of life. It's no longer like as a child, the rock's fault. It's like the government's fault. We're seeing that happen right now. It's the politician's fault. We're seeing that happen right now. It's religion's fault. It's doctor's fault. It's everybody else's fault that I'm afraid, right? Phase 2 of life. There are some people, if you're listening to this podcast, you're one of them, who's standing in the third phase of life, which is life happens by me. Like, I'm feeling fearful, that's on me. Nobody's coming to save me, right? And in phase 3, life can become really, really darn good. Really good. Now, the issue, though, that comes with phase 3 is when we are standing in a place of like radical responsibility, we put the whole world on our shoulders. Put the whole world on our shoulders, and the internal pressure that we feel builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And then you add the external pressure that's going on within just humanity right now. And it's like, whoa, lots of pressure. And if we're still staying in phase 3, mine, I'll take it, I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll control it. We get crushed by the pressure. That's what I experienced over the past couple of weeks. See, my invitation, though, there is another phase of life, which is the fourth phase of life. Life happens through me. And there's a paradox I want to talk about. Because at the end of the day, you can only control what you control. And really, all that you can control is pretty much the basics, like what time you wake up every day, what time you go to sleep, what type of food you're putting in your body, how much water you're drinking, and are you exercising and moving your body at some capacity? Like the way that this was introduced to me, I was listening to an interview with Conor McGregor, one of his newer interviews. And he talked about kind of his shadow and how he got kind of off track and how he realized he could only control the basics. And if he controls the basic, everything just seems to fall in place. And this really got me to thinking differently. It really did, because the old me used to think, okay, I need to control as much as I can control. It was like I had this frame, and I've told my clients this before. I had this frame where it's like, okay, let me just ask myself a question. Who is it that I would be being in 5 years? Like, what is it that I want to become in 5 years? And then who would I be being to be that? And then the game's simple. If I want to collapse time, well, just be that person today. Have those same types of habits, that same way of being, that same way of doing. Now, the problem with this is I updated my should list of like, okay, well, if I'm going to be surrendered to God, then I need to make sure I have this laundry list of items done. So at the end of the day, when I sit across from the table from God and he asks me a question like, did you do everything I've told you to do? I can be like, yeah, motherfucker, I have done every single thing you've told me to do. Where are you at? Where are you at? Definitely a phase 3 way of thinking about life. Life happens by me. I've done everything, God. Where are you at, motherfucker? Phase 3 thinking. And I started to realize in that space, I'm not surrendering to something greater than me that can move mountains. There's a paradox in this. It's like, yes, I must plan and focus and execute. In order for you to step into your potential and create your next level of success, even in this chaos, you must still plan, focus, and execute. But the timeline of bringing those things to fruition, that one's not on you. And if you're playing at a game at a place where you're like, I have to control everything, like it's all on me, then you're shooting yourself in the foot a bit. You're not really opening yourself up to allow God, life, spirit, universe, whatever name you want to call it, consciousness, to flow through you. And I was having this conversation with my good friend Jonathan Heston the other day. And I was like, yo, man, I'm coming to realize like we have to return to the basics. If I really want to do this cosmic dance of being surrendered to the divine and creating my purpose on earth, well, part of that is, yes, I will control what I control. And also, I'm going to be open and be the vessel to allow that to flow through me. And so in order to be a vessel, I'm realizing I have totally been complicating it. To be a vessel, why don't I just shore up my walls to be the vessel? And for me, when I check in, it comes down to 4 simple things, really 5. Waking up at a certain time, going to bed at a certain time, putting good food into my body, putting good water, amounts of water into my body, staying hydrated, and exercising. Like in all of the chaos, in all of the things that I am called to do, at the end of the day, if I neglect those 4 or 5 things, then I am not allowing myself to be the vessel to allow God to flow through me. And so my friend, like what I've learned from this is like I was creating from pride. Like I wasn't creating from love and surrender. It was like, this is on me. This is on me. And there's some of you listening to this day, to this podcast today, where you're doing the same thing that I was, creating from pride. This is on me. I will carry this. Just load the mule. I will carry the load. And for as long as we are operating from that perspective, which is fully entirely in phase 3 of life, which again, I'm not knocking it. Life becomes really good in phase 3. But this podcast isn't about good. This podcast is about fucking epic. This podcast is like, what is your potential? What is the next level? What is your edge? How much freedom can you stand to experience in your body and experience in your bank account and experience in your marriage and experience how you're relating with your children? That's what this podcast is about. And the only way to really experience that level of freedom, that level of intimacy, that level of creation is to enter into the cosmic dance between phase 3 and phase 4, where you're willing to do what you need to do, where you're willing to be that which you need to be, and also be open to something greater than yourself to flow through you. But how often are we like putting this list of like, okay, well, if I was really going to be this person, then I'd be doing this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And we're like, God, where are you at? He's like, yo, bro, I've been waiting on you to like release a little bit of the control so I could like flow through you a bit, man. That's where I've been. So you ready to like stop carrying all the pressure? Because I got you. I got you if you'll just honor some of the basics. So why am I telling you this today? Because the world is speeding up. The world is becoming more chaotic. And I believe it's going to continue that way for a bit. And the only way that we can maintain our center in this chaos, the only way that we can cultivate certainty and uncertainty, to be able to still create that which we feel called to create, is to return to the basics. And maybe all of this craziness that is defying logic a bit, that's happening in the world, maybe it's just a call to return back to the basics, not to settle. Do not hear me saying settle. That is not what I'm saying. Do not hear me saying, hey, just take it easy until the dust settles. That is not what I'm saying. I am not telling you to take your foot off the gas. I'm telling you to honor the basics. Like, just running with this analogy here, to check in on your car is like, hey, your tires aired up? Hey, do you have enough gasoline? Did you change your oil? Did you clean your car? Make sure it's looking good, feels good? Like, let's take care of this vessel so it can get you to your destination. And yes, if you're called to go to, I don't know, Denver, Colorado, for whatever reason you'd be called to go to Denver, Colorado, the timing of you arriving in Denver isn't your timing. You can set some goals, you can set some targets, but they're targets. They're targets. You set some intentions, but at the end of the day, you get to be flexible. Because if you're not flexible, you'll be broken. If you're not flexible in the storm of life, it will break you. I read something the other day. I don't remember what book I was reading. I think I was reading a book called Levels of Energy. And it said water always gets to its destination because it follows the path of least resistance. So many of us as high-achieving entrepreneurs, we take the path of most resistance from a place of pride because we're like, I will prove to you that I'm worthy of being here. The road can't be that easy. Put the weight on my shoulders. I shall carry this. And I'm here to tell you that you don't have to. There is a place where you can still focus, plan, and execute, and also still be open to surrendering to something greater than you to carry you to your destination. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. And I'm also not saying it's not going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. Welcome to the contrast. Welcome to the gift that life is giving you to remember who you are, which is a soul in control to create life on your terms. Helping you realize how much power that you have as a human being to create and inspire others. I'm not saying it's not going to be hard. I'm not saying it's not going to be easy. I am saying it is simple if you're willing to allow it to be and surrender to something greater than you while also controlling what you can control. So my friend, my invitation to you today is this, like it's very simple. Where in your life is it time for you to surrender? Where in your life is it time to become more flexible? Again, I'm not asking you to get run over. I'm just saying a little bit more pliable, a little bit more pliable? Where in your life is it time to return to the basics so you can be the vessel for God, spirit, universe, consciousness? Again, whatever word you want to use. To be the vessel and allow that to flow through you. So my friend, thank you so much for being here. That's going to do it for this episode of the Anthony John Amos podcast. If this episode inspired you in some way, I'd love to hear about it. Simply take a screenshot of you listening to this advice on your phone or wherever you're listening to it and shoot it over to Instagram stories and tag me at AJ Amix. I'd love to continue the conversation over there. Thank you so much for being here for this episode. Until next time, my friend, I'm out. Peace.
Well, that's all I've got for this episode of the Anthony John Amix podcast, but we have plenty more to help you become unstoppable in life and business. So head on over to ajamix.com for exclusive resources, information, and tools to help you break through to a new level of freedom, purpose, and success. I look forward to having you back for the next episode. Bye for now.